Okay, we are reading some more of The Sleeping Giant of Goll. We're up to chapter 3. Mirror, mirror in the sub. The underwater world was beautiful. Thick bunches of sea vines coiled up from below. Bright red balloon plants puffed and unpuffed as they passed. A school of yellow, lumpy fish swam by, grinning right into the window. "This is awesome," Eric said. "I'm sure glad we're in here," Neil added. Kia smiled. "It won't be long now. Lord Spa is nearby. We are getting close." Galen pointed to a map on the control panel next to Max. "We have tracked Spa to the dust hills of Panjibarth. Legend says that is where the giant Zor lies buried in his lost tomb." Eric shuddered as he remembered their last adventure. The evil sorcerer Spa stole an ancient piece of jewellery. It was called the Amulet of Zor. The amulet was supposed to have the power to bring the giant back to life. Max twittered nervously. "They say when the giant lived, he was taller than a mountain." "With luck, we'll stop the big guy," Neil said. "With luck and with help," Kia said. Touching a single white feather that hung on a silver chain around her neck. The kids knew what it was. It was a feather from Kia's mother, Queen Relna. The spell had transformed her into a white falcon, but she had changed shape again. No one knew what shape the queen had now. The princess smiled, touching the feather again. "This makes me feel as if she is with me." Zzzt! "What's that sound? Are we leaking?" Neil said, whirling on his seat. "Because I don't like leaks when I'm in a sub." "Is it Galen's magic mirror?" said Max. "It has something for us to see." The wizard stepped over to an old mirror hanging on the back wall of the sub. The mirror allowed the wizard to see what was happening in different parts of Droon. The rippling surface flickered with a dull glow. The kids already knew what was about to happen. They had seen the mirror before in Galen's tower. Galen waved his hand and the mirror cleared. "There's a dark room," Kia said, peering at the image. "It's dusty and dirty and very large. Big stones are everywhere." "It is a tomb," Galen said softly. "And look!" Stomping toward the mirror was the sorcerer himself, Lord Spa. His long black cloak swept across the floor of the tomb, and the pointed purple fins behind his ears certainly didn't make him look any friendlier. "I see we're tuned to that wicked sorcerer station," Neil said. "Man, he gives me the creeps." Surrounding Spa was a troop of plump, red-faced warriors in black armour. They carried shovels and picks and torches. "Here," the sorcerer said, pointing down. Flickering torchlight glowed on a large dusty stone. A strange symbol was carved onto it. "The sign of Zor," Kia gasped. "Spa has already found the lost tomb." Spa's eyes flashed. He shivered as he stood over the large stone. "So, I have found the lost empire, and the legend is true. Zor lies here." "Lost empire?" Eric whispered. Galen sighed deeply. "Droon is a world with a long past, my friends. Lord Spa has discovered what remains of an ancient dark realm of Goll. It is an empire whose cities now lie buried beneath the earth, but that once ruled this world. Goll is a lost civilization, an empire that time forgot." "Too bad Spa remembered," said Neil. The sorcerer snapped his fingers, and his Nin warriors began quickly digging around the edges of the stone. Clack, clong. Before long, the Nins pulled the stone from the floor. They looked down. They backed away from the hole, trembling. "Have you found him?" Spa said. The Nins muttered to themselves. Spa pushed them out of the way and leaned over the hole. His fins turned pale, almost white. The mirror zoomed in. There, lying open to the flickering torchlight, was a large, dark object. "Oh my," Max muttered. "What is it?" Eric asked. "It is a head," Kia gasped. The head was 6 feet long from chin to brow. The large eyes were closed. The dust of centuries covered the cheeks and lips. But the strangest part was the skin. It was dark and smooth and glimmered golden red in the torchlight. "He's made of metal," Eric said. "Bronze," Galen muttered. "Zor is a giant made of bronze. He walked the earth long ago." Neil stared at the mirror. "A giant, huh? If that's just his head, this guy must be huge." "Bigger than huge," said Eric. "Enormous." "Enormous, ha," said Neil. "He's humongous. He's colossal. Will you shh?" Julie whispered. "We are afraid, Lord Spar," one of the Nins whispered. "We want to go home." "Home?" Spar snarled. "My true home lies above in the upper world. The only way for me to get home is with this giant's help." Eric stopped breathing. "Home? In the upper world? In my world? What does that mean?" Neil asked. Julie started trembling. "He's scaring me." "Dig, my Nins, dig," Spar shouted. "Dig up the rest of him. Zor shall rise again." As the Nins dug away at the huge stones, the sorcerer stormed away into the tomb's darkness. Zzzt! The mirror faded. The front window of the sub bubbled furiously. The water seemed lighter. Max was steering the ship up through the water, up to the surface. Galen nodded gravely. "Now our real journey begins. Our journey to find Lord Spar and to stop him." Julie peered through the window as the sub splashed above the surface. "There's land ahead, a long beach and big brown hills beyond." Kia nodded. "The shores of Pangibar. They call it the land of dust." Neil gulped loudly. "Just so everybody knows," he said, "I'm allergic to dust." Chapter 4. Welcome to Pangibar. The submarine rumbled out onto the beach and stopped on the sand. Pop! Everyone piled out of the top hatch. Before them stretched a row of small hills. Behind that was a range of larger hills. Beyond that were even taller hills. As far as the eye could see, everything was dusty, brown and smooth. "Pangibar seems kind of boring," Neil said. "Let us hope it stays boring," Max chirped. "But this is Droon. Anything can happen." Galen turned to the ship, uttered a short command, and the ship rumbled back into the water. Kia scanned the hills. Then she took a deep breath and clutched her feather necklace. "Lord Spar is somewhere in these hills," she said. "I can feel him nearby. Let's find him." For the next hour, the small band climbed through narrow passes that ran between the hillsides. From one range to another, the 6 travellers slowly wormed their way upward. Entering one steep pass, Galen stopped. He turned his head slowly. He narrowed his eyes. "There!" he muttered. "That shadowy hole in the rocks. There is something in there." Max began to quake. "What is it, Master?" Galen gazed deeply into the shadows. "A cave, and he is there." He turned to Kia. "Princess," he said, "I sense something evil in there. If what I feel in my heart is true, Spar's plan is even more terrible than we thought. I must go in. You and the others wait here." "Be careful, Master," Max chittered. The wizard smiled at the spider troll. "My time has not yet come, my friend. Don't worry." With that, Galen wrapped his robes around him and entered the cave alone. Strange sounds echoed suddenly from the hills above, low rumbling sounds. Then the air went still. Silence fell over the pass. "That's weird," Julie whispered. "It's like all the sound in the world just stopped." Neil squinted up at the hills. "Do you think it's Lord Spar?" Whoosh! A burst of wind swept up from the dusty ground. It spun faster and faster. It coiled around in the air, forming a dark, whirling funnel. "Yikes!" said Eric, shielding his eyes. "Let's get out of here." But the wind struck quickly, as if it were alive. The coil of the spinning dust leaped upon the 5 friends, scattering them. "Take cover, everyone!" Kia cried out, grabbing Max and pulling him to the shelter of an overhanging rock. Julie tried to join them, but stumbled on the rocky ground. She struggled to her feet, but the tunnel tore after her, whirling and spitting dust. "Help!" she cried, trying to outrun the wind. Neil bolted from his hiding place. Julie! Kia too leaped from shelter to face the furious funnel. She clutched her feather and cried out, but her words were lost in the fury of the storm. The wind swept around Julie, surrounding her. It's got me, she shrieked. The wind pulled her inside itself. Eric stumbled towards the funnel, his arms outstretched. Julie, here, he shouted. The spinning dust stung his face. I'm coming, he cried. But the wind wouldn't let him come. The twister spun Julie around and around. It roared up the side of the pass. Up and up it went, spinning Julie away with it until her cries were lost. Julie! Eric shouted for the last time. A moment later, the dark funnel was gone. The wind in the pass died down to nothing. The storm was over, and Julie was gone.